Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It's good to be here, first of all. Even though nature, in all her trickery, tried to keep me from here. Our friend Jajakara denied her and got me on a plane this morning, and here I am. I love this space. I love not only the work that Jakarta does at the ground level, helping kids, helping families, helping adults, but then encouraging this discourse. And you just heard from one of my heroes, Dr. Inderjeet Kaur. It's an amazing thing. And I just wanted to thank you guys for doing this, because as a graduate student, I don't think I really had this kind of space, you know? And one of the things that I'm going to talk about in my work is how difficult it is to break through the mold as a scholar who's interested in Sikh and Punjab issues. And some of us are interested in gender issues. And some of us are interested in equality issues, right? This just adds to the layer of all the crap you got to deal with in the academy to get your ideas heard. But not to mention the stuff that happens in our own community, right? Some people, we say that we're scholars of the truth, we're seekers of the truth, and then if the truth goes a little bit against the grain of what people expect, it's a little shaky. It's harder to do. And that's a situation I found myself in doing research on Bhai Gurdas. I heard that Nandi gave you a little bit of an introduction to Bhai Gurdas, so thank you, Babadi, for that. When I ask people about Bhai Gurdas, the opposite of the usual leg pulling that Sikhs, I think, are known for happens. When I mean leg pulling, I mean if somebody's getting a little too unhumble, we pull them down pretty quickly. With the Bhai Gurdas, we have the opposite kind of movement happening within the community, where people just venerate him. Where people just say, oh, Bhai Gurdas, yeah, Bhai Gurdas, Kunji, Gurbani Di Kunji, Bhai Gurdas, very important figure, related to the Gurus, yes, Bhai Gurdas. Have you read him? Bhai Gurdas is very important. Right? We haven't read Bhai Gurdas. Not to mention that we haven't really read him critically. So he's a very important figure as a historical figure. He's a very important writer. I think that reading him critically, for me, only raised his importance. I think by doing this veneration that we do it of the Gurus, we do it of their families, we actually limit the scope of how great this tradition could be in this world. And by doing this kind of sycophantic, just leaving it at a certain level of what we were taught, and not asking courageous questions. But why isn't Bhai Gurdas in the Guru Granth Sahib? What if Baba Sundar and his son can be in the Guru Granth Sahib? If non-Sikhs who came to the court and sang of the Gurus can be in the Guru Granth Sahib, why isn't Bhai Gurdas' compositions in the Guru Granth Sahib? Everybody will give you the same answer. What's the answer? Who's asked this question and then knows a little bit about the answer? What do people say as to why isn't Bhai Gurdas in the Guru Granth Sahib? No, nobody has read him. Nobody's read his story. Please have read him. What people typically say is Bhai Gurdas was the scribe of the Guru Granth Sahib. He was an amanuensis of when the Granth was coming together under Guru Arjan. And when Guru Arjan said, "Bring your Bani to the Granth," Bhai Gurdas says, "No, Guruji, no. And so we start imagining this man as a very humble servant of the Guru. His name literally means that, Guru Das. But we also imagine him as just not interested in getting his word into the Gurbani. Well, where does this story come from that Bhai Gurdas said, "Oh Guruji, please don't put my Barni in the Guru Granth"? According to my reading, I cannot find a source that has that story, a Sikh written source, before 1770s. Bhai Gurdas dies by 1640, maybe 1630. So in that 100 and, I'm not a math major, whatever years, we have explanatory models of why things don't look like they do. And we rely on those models in the Gurdwara today when we do prachar. When prachar is done to us, we're actually often passive victims of prachar, that we don't question. And so for me, all the theory that I read in grad school, and Philip knows and can tell us about how much theory we read in grad school, all the great minds and the Foucaults and the Saids, they couldn't answer a simple question for me, which was, why isn't Bhai Gurdas in the Guru Granth Sahib? And the answer, the way to answer that question for me was basic historiographical method, which is very similar to detective work, right? You don't need a master's in critical theory to understand dates. They go in order, folks. and so for me, that was the launching into this deep question of why isn't Bhai Gurdas in the Guru Granth that led me 15 years later to publishing this book, which just came out from Oxford University Press, which I titled Drinking from Love's Cup. So I want to tell you the story of that research a little bit, and tell you why I titled it that, and tell you why I think Bhai Gurdas has a lot to say about the Oroville Dam situation. Okay? Can I tell that story then? How does Bhai Gurdas deal with, speak to the situation of Sikhs in America today, of these dams that are breaking, and what the Sikh response has been? So the answer that people give, as I said before, as to why Bhai Gurdas is not in the Guru Granth Sahib is that they say, he's the Gurbani's Kunji. And Kunji means key, right? And a key is a metaphor for a explanatory text. And by explanatory text, I mean a commentary, typically a prose commentary. Well, this is fishy to me, because Guru Granth Sahib was written in the languages of the time. If a topic is difficult for people to understand, the gurus themselves put it in different words. Here it looks like this, there it looks like this. You speak Bhojpuri, we'll write in that. Do you speak Lendi? We'll go back to the west and write in that. It doesn't seem to me like a text that is so mysterious that nobody could understand it, that it would need, in that period, somebody to write a commentary on it. Second thing, he himself is writing in poetry. So poetry upon poetry is not a kunji. That's not commentary. And to call that kunji, in my perspective now, looking back at it, is not to raise Bhai Gurdas up, it's to misunderstand him deeply. My thesis as to why Bhai Gurdas's compositions, vars, of which we have 40, gabits, of which the standard version we have 556, to which Veer Singh does some work, and we get to 675. And then I found at least one unprinted gabit in a Khalsa College manuscript. That's another book down the road. This gray will go to white by the time that comes out. But the reason that Bhai Gurdas, I think, doesn't enter the Guru Granth Sahib is that he doesn't write until after Guru Arjan has been executed. The entire corpus, the extant corpus of Bhai Gurdas's compositions are a response to Jahangir's, Mughal Emperor Jahangir's execution of Guru Arjan, which happens in the year 1600. Very good, Neelamjeet, 1606. You win the prize. 1606. And the Kartarpur Pothi, which we see as the current manuscript, right, that later Guru Granth Sahib is based on, is completed in 1604. There are other Pothis completed around 1600. We have MS 1245. Kishore Singh talks about the Bahawal Pothi. These are Pothis of the Granth, which became the Guru Granth, up until that time contained the compositions of Guru Arjan. So this very pedestrian detail as to why Bhai Gurdas, this very mysterious question has a very pedestrian answer. And that is, he wasn't, what we have, maybe he was writing, what we have in front of us today, the Vars, in my opinion, come after the death of Guru Arjan. And according to the earliest manuscripts that I can find, which themselves there's problems with dating in those manuscripts, none of the manuscripts are dated. This is another problem in early non-scriptural texts, is the scriptural manuscripts are often dated, but the other stuff, you have to do a lot of guesswork to figure out when it came to be. So the guesswork that I engaged in was to see the structure of the Vars, the poems, and how they're laid out, and the orthography of the manuscripts that we have. So orthography is how the Gurmukhi script is written, right? So particularly around, there's certain letters like the Kanna symbol for A, the long A sound, is a dot in the earliest manuscripts. It's not a full half stick that's coming down from the top, right? It's just a dot. And then it gets a little longer, and by the later manuscripts, by Anandapur period mostly, 1700, these are more substantial lines that go about halfway down the line. The earliest manuscripts that I've found, their orthography seems to be slightly earlier. And there's at least 3 manuscripts. There's at least 2 manuscripts where there's only 37 Vars out of the 40. Sorry, 34 Vars out of the 40. I'm going to write this down because it gets confusing. Can I geek out with you for a few minutes? There's only 34 in some of these manuscripts. There's a manuscript from Caltech College in which after those 34, what we have as Vars 1 through 3 and 4, and 38 to 40 come after here. And then in the final version of the compositions, it goes these 1 to 3. These become 4 to 37, and these still end up 38 to 40. So what I see here is that if you have a manuscript that has all of Gurdas's compositions, why would it only give you 34 of them? Did the scribe get sleepy? He ran out of ink. No, somebody didn't pay him. Some of these scribes are doing work of labor of love, and some of them are just doing labor. Let me read you the first stanza in Var 4, and then I'll read the translation, okay? So this book has Gurmukhi from the earliest manuscript that I could find with notes, and then it has my translation. Ek Onkar Sadgur Prasad Bani Bhai Gurdas ki Vara. Not some of the Vara, not Vara until I get tired. The scribe writes Vara. Little detail, matters to me. This is the whole thing he had. Onkar Akar Kar Paun Pani Basantar Tare. Onkar is a name for God. It's the first letter in the Gurbani alphabet. Ura. We're starting with the beginning here. Onkar Akar Kar Paun Pani Basantar Tare. Tart Akas Vichodian Chand Suraj De Jot Savare. It's a longer stanza. Let me just read you the first translations of those first two lines. Onkar took form and instilled wind, water, and fire, splitting land from sky, lighting moon and sun. The divine bestowed 4 forms of sustenance to the myriad species. In each class of species are countless beings beyond compare. Human life is precious. Find escape in the Guru's graces. Wrapped in assembly, steeped in the Shabad, ponder the Guru's wisdom. The benevolent, Gurmukh, Parupkari, are the Guru's beloveds. The benevolent are the Guru's beloveds. Parupkari, Guru Pyare. My argument is that he starts with Onkar, he starts with a stanza that is talking about the creation of the universe, because this is his first stanza that he ever wrote in relation to the Vars. But then he gets into some really interesting metaphors. Okay? Let me read you some of these metaphors in English, because time is short. Splendid is the raindrop. In Indic theology, or whatever you want to call it, there's this idea that pearls come from raindrops, a special kind of rain that drops into the ocean, and that drop goes into the mouth of the clam, and that develops a perfect pearl. It started in the heavens as a beautiful object, and it was a special thing, and that became the pearl, right? So he's using this trope. So he says, splendid is the raindrop, falling low from high in the sky, effacing itself, giving itself over at the side of the ocean. One raindrop rests in a clam's mouth. Receiving the drop in its mouth, the shell sinks to the seafloor. Say that 5 times fast. Recovered by a diver, marjivada, one who dies to live. Marjivada is a diver. Handing itself over for another's sake. Surrendered to benevolence, parupkari, surrendered. It is smashed on a rock. Forgiving trespasses. It does not regret bequeathing the pearl, talking about the clam now. A life made worthwhile is a rare blessing. So he uses this word over and over and over again. I'll just write it in Roman. Parupkari, which literally means, right, other, helping, which I translate as benevolence. Now, does that clam meet, how does that clam's life end that I just read from? Peacefully? Violently. And the clam sunk to the bottom. The raindrop sunk to the bottom. And the clam gave itself over to the marjivada. And it bequeathed a what? A beautiful pearl. Over and over and over again in this first var, you have Bhai Gurdas writing about metaphors like the sugarcane, which is ground in a press to bequeath something sweet. He over and over and over again is writing metaphors of violent ends by small, seemingly insignificant things. I don't know, like leaders of small, seemingly insignificant movements. To say that only in the sweetness of this surrender, only in that sacrifice, can something as beautiful as a pearl come about. Can something as sweet as Ganidharas, right? Sugar, cane juice, come about, which becomes molasses, jaggery, gur, sugar. So what is Bhai Gurdas saying? Who wants to take a stab at it? What is the underneath the coded text? What is underneath it, would you say? Small sacrifices lead to big things. He talks about colorium, which is from candles. You know, what is the word? You put it in your eyes. Huh? Kajal. Kajal, we call it kajal, surma, right? Mascara or something. No, that's a different thing. It comes from burning something and then grinding it. Lamp black. And then it can adorn even the emperor. Or a diamond can be cut with another diamond, and then it can find its way to the emperor's neck. What kind of person dreams about things that make their way to the emperor's neck? A person who is seething with the pain of his leader being executed by Jahangir. This is coded language, I say, to say that Bhai Gurdas is talking about nothing but death and rebirth. This little cup, it comes to us from a private collection. Before that private collection, it was in the Brooklyn Museum. It is a wine cup given to Emperor Jahangir, and it's datable to 1607, 1608, which I would say will be right around the time that Bhai Gurdas is writing his poems. Jahangir's empire doesn't last. You did. The Sikh Panth did. And what Bhai Gurdas is talking about with Paropkari, he is saying that Guru Arjan is the ultimate Paropkar. In his own life, Guru Arjan would have built water wells and other kinds of places that did positive work in the community. It is for that reason, we know from Jahangir's own letters, that he is saying this guy's getting too popular, right? Some silly Muslims are falling for his tricks. They are converting to his religion. We must close the shop down. And Jahangir thinks that by killing Guru Arjan, he can close the shop of Sikhi down. I say that Bhai Gurdas's vars, which are militant ballads, not sweet poems of this or that for a Sikh, for a Punjabi, right? We sing our children lullabies of, right, Maharaja Ranjit Singh's generals, right? We are a different kind of people. We are a resilient people. And we are a people that believe that our future lies in benevolence. So much so that when the history repeats itself, some people say history repeats itself, other people say it doesn't really repeat itself, but it rhymes sometimes. So in 1675, when Guru Tegh Bahadur is put to death, and Guru Gobind Singh he elevates the entire community to the status of Guru Khalsa. What is the Guru Khalsa's motto in 3 words? That's a good one. Raj Grega Khalsa is definitely one of them. Paropkari turns to the Tegh Tegh Fateh. You see the Tegh and we think we just need to stop at the sword. But the only reason, in my opinion, that the Tegh exists, the sword exists, is that the fire lit under the cauldron of Langar should never go out. And so, my friends, that is the beginning of the story of drinking from love's cup, surrender and sacrifice in the works, in the vars of Bhai Gurdas Kalla. And then, in terms of the leg pulling, some people have already said, well, why do you use the word Palla? That's his caste identity. The manuscripts use the word Palla. I just repeat it. I'm trying to be original to the sources. And what does this have to do with the Oroville Dam. Well, all those tweets that went out, right? All those Facebook messages that went out, every gumball given to a cold family is the Sikh spirit. That is what Sikhs are here for. For my generation, our parents told us we were here to become doctors and lawyers, right? Failure. I failed at that. We are here to actually realize the American dream, which is a radical equality of all people, of all faiths, of all genders, of all classes, and our gurus lived and died for that. And so the Oroville Dam situation, that is Sikh life. That should be normal. And thanks to Jakarta and a few other organizations like it, it is becoming the normal for Sikh life in America, right? I was on the phone last night, texting my friend Ravi Singh. He's a man in Los Angeles who made a little bit of money in real estate and bought a taco truck and now gives warm vegan burritos to people 5 nights a week on Skid Row, in Hollywood, on Venice Boulevard, which, if you know, they were all places where people without homes, often who are mentally ill, often who are destitute, just want to be called by their first name sometimes, are. His wife's name is Jackie Kaur. They together raised their son to live this. This is the Sikh spirit. Parupkari, Deg Deg Fateh, they're the same thing. And I would say that I did not mean to stumble upon that in my work. I was just worried about manuscripts. I was just worried literally about bookworms. Because another problem is that we don't take care of our heritage. So one of these oldest manuscripts that are there, I went to a private library, and I had, you have a cousin and he takes you in the back of his Zen 1000. Do they even have Zen 1000s anymore? Suzuki engine. And you get off the road at Ludhiana, and all of a sudden there's this parent, and in the parent there's a Baba, and the Baba has a library. And I asked the Baba's librarian, can I see this manuscript? They were so great to me. 3 or 4 cups of tea. Later, right? Langar, later. He comes with a manuscript. It's wrapped in a plastic bag, like you get at the dollar store. And he says, oh, there it is. Shards of the manuscript are going flying like that. I did not intend to discover that Bhai Gurdas is talking about Jahangir. But that heritage is important to me.
So who has the manuscript now?
We have it. It's been digitized. Yeah, he had already digitized it before he did that, but he didn't tell me that. So, but still, you can't do that to a manuscript. You can't leave it literally like a locker, you know. So that's our tradition. That's our heritage. We are the leg pullers. We are the worshipers. We are the saints. We are the soldiers. We are the devils. It's up to us to understand where this Sikhi goes in the future. My vision is that Jakarta movement and Khalsa Peace Corps, my friend Ravi's taco truck, lead the way, light the way, teach other people about Sikhi. They who are non-Punjabis come learn about Sikhi, give Sikhi their own flavor. They teach us about Sikhi. They make us better Sikhs. And this little tradition, like a raindrop in a clam, turns out to do something in this world that our ancestors had hoped that we would accomplish. That is the future of Sikhs in America. So when people say to me, "Oh, my Somali cab driver was like, sorry about Muslims, and Trump, like you guys are getting it. No. If I bow to Baba Farid in Gurdwara every time I go to Gurdwara, I'm a Muslim too. Come for me first. That's the Sikh spirit. If Baba Mardana is Guru Nanak's best friend and stays a Muslim, then it's not our responsibility to say, we're not Muslims. Right? We'll take it in the chest before we take it in the back. That is the Sikh tradition that we love. That is the Sikh tradition that we try to embody. That is the Sikh tradition that they imagined in the hardest times of their lives. And what an honor to live that out. What an honor to be in front of you. I'm interested in your questions, and I know I have time, I think, but we were a little bit late getting started. The airlines finally did get me here, and I just want to have an interaction with you and with Inderjeet ji, so let's have a discussion. Waheguru ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru ji.